So, Woody, we need to do something else because we've just, you can see here, we've just cooked down. That is now quite pasty. So what we're going to do is just going to put in the coconut milk, but probably just half a jar of that, half a tin of that, and give it a stir, and that will just make the really lovely sort of auburn colour come to the fore. We'll just, yeah, there we go. So we'll pop that back on there, and again we're going to let that cook out. We're just going to cook the sort of tinniness out of the coconut milk. Okay, so we just come back to the fire, and it was starting to just,
we did.
And it was just starting to die down a bit. So we've just introduced some more charcoal, moved a few of the logs around to get a bit more heat back on it. I'm just going to take the camera off the gimbal and just give you a close up of the meat so you can have a better view of how it's cooking and just some idea of the colours that you want to see when you're cooking. Okay. So we moved the fire back around, so we've got a bit more. Took some out of this one and put it into this one, and then put some new wood under here, so we have a bit more flame. So you can see the colour. This colour here is really lovely, and you can see the thing I didn't talk to you about actually was before I put the meat on, I just slashed it. You can see it here. Giving the meat a cut just opens up more surface area, allows the heat to get at it, and gives you a more even cook. You can see there's some really nice colour starting to happen there. That's kind of what you're after. So that needs the thicker bit. Oh shit, the thicker bit you can see just there. That is where we need to get a bit more heat in. So we'll just move it out of the way so half of it's under the heat and half of it's not. And you can see that this is starting to bubble really nicely, and that is going to come right down. That is going to come right down, and while all that is happening, we'll start shaping some naan breads. You can see in there that still needs a bit more cooking in there, so you just flip it over, stick it on there. Got a few more logs under there for get them going, and then I'll swap them over here. Just keep moving the fire around, get the heat where we need it to be, and you can see that it's just gently reducing up there, just bubbling away nicely. Quick t-shirt change, and the kids have gone. I usually get through 3 or 4 t-shirts at Meatopia because it just gets so hot, and I was seeing a big sweaty mark here, which I didn't think was very nice. So I changed the t-shirt. So I'm going for internal temperature check now. Want to get the kid to about 57, sort of round about there. Doesn't matter if it's a few degrees, because we're not cooking it pulled. It doesn't matter if it's a few degrees either way. That's 56 and a bit there. Some of this in here will probably be more like 70 and more well done. Yeah, that one's 68, 72. Yeah, that's 72. So that's great. So we'll take that off and we'll let it rest. Just allows the meat to relax. Obviously, cooking meat at a really high heat is a pretty stressful thing for the meat, and it all gets all tight and scrunched up. You just want it to relax, and it's sort of much easier, less on the tooth when you come to eat it. So we're just going to take this off, and we'll stick it over here and just let it rest. Pop that there. The sauce is now coming down nice and thick, which is great. Oops. And I've just given the top of the plancha a bit of a clean because we're going to get the naan bread started on there. Where's my cloth gone? Oh, it's over there. So yeah, sauce is ready, meat is resting, and the plancha is all ready for the naan bread. The one other component of all of this, other than we're going to grill the cabbage as well, but the other component of this is the chutney, and that is lime juice, coriander, garlic, and ginger, all just blitzed together into a sauce, and it's really punchy. It's got the green chili in it as well. Sorry, green chili as well. You want this to be really limey, really sharp, and really hot, really spicy, sort of heat spice. So before we get on to cooking the naan breads, just going to give this a taste. So you can see it's kind of like nice and thick now. You see that? Nice thick, which is great. Just give it a taste. Yeah, it's nice, and it's got nice and spice. Probably needs a little bit more heat, so I might put a few more Kashmir chilies in it. But remember, we do have the lime chutney, which is going to give it a bit of a boost as well. But it isn't sour enough, and the sour is it's got nice richness from the coconut milk, and it's got a nice sweetness as well, obviously from the coconut milk and the onion as well. But it does need that sourness. So I think I'm just going to give it a few more minutes on the heat, just cook out a little bit more. And then we're going to add the sourness to it. Not too much. Yeah, probably just about that much. And just let that stir in. So for the naan breads, oh man, got a real eyeful there. Oh. So for the naan breads, I've just got some butter melting there. And for the cabbage element, I just saved back some of the spice mix. I'm just going to chuck that in the butter, stick it on there, and then I'll sprinkle it with a bit of the spice mix before I chop it up and put it on the final dish. But now we'll get on the naan breads. I'm just going to naan bread. Oops. Let's try that again. Naan bread. So we've got that sort of, it's not proper, but that sort of classic sort of teardrop shape. All I did to shape it out was just give it a bit of a pummel with my fingers. It's such a soft, light dough that it's not going to need a rolling pin. You just be able to do it with your hands. So we'll just be able to get that out. Hopefully it won't tear. Just gather it up a little bit. Pop it straight on the plancha. You have a couple of seconds to pull it around. I'm just going to take the phone off the gimbal and give you a bit of a close-up, because what you want to try and do is get that bubble, and it might be the plancha is just not hot enough for the dough to start bubbling as it cooks. And if it isn't, then I'll transfer it onto the grill. But we'll just take it off the gimbal and you can have a look. There we go. So it should start to bubble, and it isn't really happening. So what I might just do is lift it off. Oh, there we go. Broken that one. Shove it on there, and hopefully that will start to bubble. It's got a bit more heat. Just proof that we don't always get these things right, as you can see. Is that starting to happen or not? I don't know. Just while we're here, curry sauce looking good. There's your the clarified butter, and there's the cabbage, which should be looking nice. And yeah, that's a good colour. That almost done. It's not quite hot enough, but we'll just brush it with some of the butter. You can use ghee here, or even better, goat fat. Goat fat's really good for this kind of thing. And then to store your naans, before you eat them, just drop them in between a clean tea towel, fold it over. So we've got the naan finishing off. We've added the grilled, smoked, beautiful, lovely medium rare goat to the sauce there. We've got a whole load more here. Just let me grab this. So you can see there, it's nice and pink. It's a good layer of fat in there as well. It's a bit more unctuousness, a bit more depth to the flavour. Which all coats the mouth in that really lovely sort of meaty juiciness. And you can see there we've just cut up the cabbage as well, which has just had that dusting of spices that we held back. So to build the final, to build the final dish, I'm going to do two. I'll do the Meatopia size one, which is the one you would get where you stand there, hold your beer, drink your food. And I'm going to do one on a whole naan, as if it was kind of like, sort of like a lamachan, but not, because it's not minced. But it might be if you're feeding some friends, or if there's more than one of you, and you want to make it a sort of bigger meal, you can serve it all on one naan bread. So I'm just gonna, so that's it. I think it's done. So I sliced the cabbage, put the cabbage on first, then put the meat that's been mixed in with the curry sauce onto that, and then finished it with that chili, coriander, lime, garlic and ginger chutney. Now, I was never very good at making things look nice on the plate. I was always much more the grill bitch in the kitchen, and that has remained so. It's also quite hard to make, stew on bread look nice. It doesn't have those sort of clean lines of when you cut a really lovely piece of fillet or something. But for me, it's always been more about the flavour than the aesthetics. And I think this is pretty good. So I'm going to give it a go. The sort of trencher nature of the naan bread, now it's got loads of sauce in it, is pretty good. The sort of richness of the meat with the balance of the sweet and the sour is delicious. And that sort of chutney just lifts the whole thing, and on one naan, which I think if you're making this at home might be a nicer way to do it. And then you just sort of slice it up, eat it with your friends. So I think that's me done.